You're welcome back to Morning Express. Now, for the second leg of conversations on the program, we're being joined virtually by Mr. Gbenro Olajuyigbe, who is the Executive Director, Emergency and Risk Alert. Hello and a very good morning to you, Mr. Gbenro. It's fantastic to have you join us on Morning Express this morning.
Good morning. It's a pleasure being with you.
Fantastic. Well, just before we went on the break and came back, we were having discussions about the recent protests in Jos, the Plateau State capital, over the incessant killings of truck and tanker drivers plying southeastern roads, where reports say that in the last 1 year, about 20 trucks have been burnt or destroyed, and many drivers have been killed. How do you react to this with regards to the safety of our highways, not just for passengers, but also truckers and motorists in general?
Well, you can't discuss this without reverting to the import of what is called disaster. We have an environment that is riddled with hazard, and this hazard, whether in form of bad road, whether in form of poor servicing of the tanker, or even poor orientation of the drivers, that come in contact with vulnerable people. People that are poor, people that cannot, it's difficult for them to eke out a living. So in a situation where you have hazard combining with vulnerability, there will be disaster. And that is what we have been witnessing. So the issue is about one, the tanker drivers, most of them are reckless. Secondly, you have situation of bad roads. And of course, you have a very poor economy that have multiplied the number of poor people desperately looking for where to eke out living. And you know that characteristically,
Hello, Mr. Gbenro. Well, I think we might have a little bit of challenge with the connection there, but I think he was trying to make his point, especially regarding the non-servicing of some of these artillery vehicles and overloading, and also so many other key issues he had mentioned with regards to.
Hello?
Hello, Mr. Gbenro. You were making a point. Please carry on. I think you were cut off a little bit back there.
Hello?
We can hear you, sir.
Please carry on.
Yeah. What I was trying to, the sense I was trying to make out of the question that you asked is that there is a plethora of hazards, whether in form of bad road, whether in form of poor driving skill, whether in terms of even the state of the vehicles, the state of the trucks that are being used to convey this highly inflammable product. You have that, and then you have a lot of people that are extremely poor that have been driven into border of poverty. So when this hazard combined with the number of vulnerable people you have, which as a country we should know that there will be disaster. I have seen the gospel that is going on that when there is accident or incident of this type of this thing, people should not go there to scoop fuel. But it's not going to be obeyed because of the circumstances of those who are there. There is no value to their lives. Value to their lives in the sense that their life, the value has been diminished by the circumstance of economic challenges that they are facing. And the response to scooping oil wherever there is an accident is in order to alleviate their suffering, but not counting the cost
Mr. Gbenro,
of such
Mr. Gbenro,
engagement, the dire consequences of losing their lives.
Mr. Gbenro,
And that has happened in both.
Mr. Gbenro, let's break down these issues one after the other so we address them as they come. I think in line of the recent petroleum products spill on highways and how Nigerians rush to scoop them with total disregard for safety and their lives have been very concerning. But let's start with the move by the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Regulatory Petroleum Agency, NMDPR, to from the 1st of March 2025 ban the use of trucks to transport more than 60,000 liters of petroleum products. Let's get your thoughts on that ban and how its implementation will come about. Are you certain that this ban would in some way curb the incidences that we have on our highways? Mr. Gbenro, are you with us?
Hello?
Yes, what I would just say there is that maybe I don't have evidence that that is going to even reduce the risk. Even if you are using the one that is conveying 30,000 liters, how are you sure that the combustibility it won't be in the rate of the 60? The only that thing can address is that if they have done research and they have come out with the fact that is the load or overload that is pushing the vehicles down, maybe that may help. But I don't believe that is the situation. You know how bad our roads are. And of course, even before this time, let us not forget that Nigeria, we used to convey our petroleum product through pipes. So in most states, for I know that in Mosimi around Ogun State, you have the one that is servicing Ogun State, Lagos and the environ. You have the one in Ore that is equally servicing Kogi, Ondo and the environs. They go through pipe, and but unlike now, when you have to physically and directly lift petroleum product from Lagos to Abuja by road. So those are the situations. I don't know how long that will enhance safety. What I can do, what I can say about that is that, look, we have to address a lot of issues.
Now, Mr. Gbenro, some of the debate...
although this is a long-term suggestion, going back to the issue of pipeline, of course, we know the issue of even the pipeline vandalization and critical aspects of critical infrastructure.
But Mr. Gbenro, we looked at some of the debates when the stakeholders met to deliberate on this ban of 60,000 liters transporting of petroleum products. Whilst the statistics in defense of the NMDPR was that 493 persons died in 3 years, the president of Nigerian Road Transporters Association lamented that should this ban be imposed, that they would lose over 300 billion naira. Now, it's a debate on lives and investments in terms of what the econometrics is. I don't know where you would tilt towards more. Is it for the fear of loss of investments or the protection of Nigerian lives?
Yeah, it's both. For example, now, if you are bringing 60,000 liters of fuel by road to Abuja, instead of conveying that with one truck, you have to go twice now. That means that the cost of transport has been doubled, and that will inevitably reflect on the cost of petrol at the pump price, at the dispensing pump. So you have to look at that from those who are engaged in business know the cost, the consequences of costs. It's about doing cost-benefit analysis. But the second aspect of that is that I have said it, that if there will be a reduction in the type of disaster that we witness now by this measure, it's going to be insignificant because it is not empirical deductive that 30,000 liters will not be as combustible as 60,000 liters. Or that the gravity that is pushing 60,000 liter truck down cannot push 30,000 liters down. So I don't know the type of research they have done to come out with that. I think this is just a wave brain and fire brigade approach to critical issue of safety. There are elements you can tinker with. One, I have told you, because before you have disasters, there will be hazards. And then there will be a set of vulnerable people.
Yeah.
It is when these vulnerable people come in contact with hazard that and the risk is too high, and the disaster happen, then there will be lots of lives. And the issue of hunger, addressing the issue of hunger in Nigeria is critical. Addressing the issue of bad roads is critical. It's a critical factor when you want things that will contribute to factors that will contribute to reducing vulnerability. So you have to tinker with vulnerability. You have to tinker with hazard, with risk.
Late last year and early this year,
and then you have to intensify.
We saw a number of tankers falling in certain parts of the country. And I think for about 2 or 3 weeks at a stretch, we witnessed about 3 or 4 tankers falling, and then the same incident happening, people going there to scoop fuel, and then, something ignites a flame, and, scores of people or even hundreds of people end up getting roasted. Are you saying that these people are doing this continually, time and time again, in different parts of the country due to hunger, and that addressing the issue of hunger in the nation would stop them from going to scoop fuel when a tanker falls? Should we now throw the blame on food insecurity rather than the lack of common sense of certain individuals when a tanker has fallen?
Well, let me ask you a question. Right. If there is fuel tanker somewhere now along the road where you are coming to office, are you going to pass that road?
I certainly wouldn't.
Because you have something to live for. You have placed premium on your life. But many people are almost irredeemably poor, and they don't put any premium on their own life. They even look to the thought. I'm telling you the reality, not what we think people should do. When people are irredeemably poor, there is a culture they form that emerge from such a feeling of absolute poverty. The culture of that I am not, what am I living for? What am I doing? If I go there, I can escape and get myself fed. If I don't go, hunger can kill me. So let me go and take the risk. What constitutes risk to you does not constitute risk to them. That's what I'm saying. It's not a justification for their scooping the fuel, but there must be level we get to. Nobody that is, you have a job and everything, you want to go and scoop fuel. I know that there is greed element, just as you have greed element among those that are governing Nigeria. Among the poor, you have people that are greedy too. But the fact is that until people, you reduce poverty to extremely poverty to the barest minimum, we are going to be witnessing this type of thing.
Now, and Mr.
And one thing poverty does to human being is that it destroys your capacity for logical thought. It destroys your capacity for putting premium on your life. Your self-esteem is deflated, and the action you take can just people don't understand at times where you are coming from. In one of my books, I wrote there that those who buy cars as if they are buying bread should not expect those who buy bread as if they are buying car to be thinking like them. So it doesn't work that way.
That's a very fine analogy, Mr. Gbenro.
That is what we have projected in safety. One of the things we try to say in safety when we are training people is that life should be the first thing you consider.
Yeah, please, your last point before my next question, Mr. Gbenro.
Okay, but then you must be in position to value that life. Some people don't put their life first because of what they are passing through. That is the fact. Maybe some people, even ordinary drivers who drives along our way, you will see trailer coming now because they want to carry passenger of 500 naira. They will take the risk of just stopping without a prior warning for the vehicle, to the vehicles at their back.
Now this is
so we have such contributing factors to how people behave the way they behave.
Let's talk about regulations. You have cited some of the inefficiencies of these drivers in ensuring that their vehicles are properly maintained, and that these precautionary measures should be taken. But let's also talk about the regulations, road regulations, especially with regards to tankers on Nigerian highways. We know that they travel for thousands of kilometers, crisscrossing the country, carrying petroleum, carrying other goods and produce and all of that. Are there specific regulations set aside by perhaps the Federal Road, the FRSC, to ensure that they do not pose a danger to themselves, they do not pose a danger to other motorists on the road, and they do not also pose a danger to residents of communities along the roads that they are applying?
Yeah, I know. Federal Road Safety tried to put up one measure before, which I still consider is good idea. For example, that tanker or those vehicles of highly inflammable consign should not move during. And this is the point is logical, because during the day you have a lot of people moving, a lot of this. So it is that was done in attempt to reduce the risk. It's not it's not to eliminate the risk. As you have a situation in Ibadan where tanker move in the night and crush a house that is being dwelled by people and kill the entire family. So we have such situation, but then that type of measure can still reduce the incidences that we are recording now. And secondly, there must be standard measure that must be met by those who use such vehicle on our road. That should be prescribed in terms of the type of drivers that they are going to engage. Two, the important parts of their vehicles, including brakes, including in short, to ensure that the vehicle is roadworthy. And secondly, the government must take action on our road so that we equally know that the roads are vehicle worthy. So our roads are not vehicle worthy, and most trucks are not even roadworthy too. So you must ensure that before you can substantially reduce vulnerability.
That's a double tragedy there, Mr. Gbenro. Our roads not being car worthy, and then the trucks not being roadworthy themselves.
Yeah, it's really double tragedy. Now, double jeopardy.
Mr. Gbenro, in achieving safer roads in Nigeria, what are some of the realistic resolutions that we can implement without double jeopardy at hand? Do we need to tilt away from the use of roads for such conveyance of the products under question? Can we look towards cargo and rail as an alternative? And if by any means we see some roads where there are some infrastructure put in place to restrict a certain number of heavy tankers from plying the road by capping them.
That, to me, I think that is the standard practice. That is the best practice, to explore other means of conveying these highly inflammable materials, even articulated vehicles. I have written on that severally. It's just like people waiting for Nigerians to die. Do you know the number of what do they call this vehicle that convey containers that are falling on people's motor, crush them, kill them, without any repercussion for the drivers or compensation for the families that are affected? That is a sign of a very unserious country. And when people say that Nigeria is not making progress, this thing is that I think they are too generous in that assessment. Nigeria is not only making progress, but it's retrogressing. Nigeria is retrogressing. I just told you that in the 70s, in the 80s, even up to the early part of 90s, you have depots. You have in Ore, at Oredia, you have at Mosimi, you have very close to Lagos, you have one in close to Abuja, where you just through pipeline, you convey your vehicle and the motor just go there to distribute to the environs. But that is gone now. And we are condemned to utilizing the highly risky haulage of inflammable product, petroleum product from Lagos to Abuja to even to Kano to elsewhere and everything. It's not safe. It's not a standard practice. We should explore alternative, and we should think out of the box to do out of our box now to begin to do that. At least if we can't do all now, there is need for us to look at how can we now reactivate those depots. I don't know why it is not possible. And if we can't do that, we must just sit together and look at the rail system is not how do you move petroleum product from Port Harcourt or from Lagos Dangote now to the north when the rail system is not working well. We have a lot of challenges that we just need to face. And when people validate performance without progress indicators, I wish we are out there given a clapping for our government, because we have moved beyond what we are discussing in the 70s, and now we have gone back even to a period that when there was no oil in Nigeria and people were better and rich, and nobody was scooping fuel, even if there was accident at that particular time. So most situations has gone south, from the vehicle itself that have become rickety and non-serviceable, to extremely bad road, and also to people that have been condemned to absolute poverty and therefore inevitably vulnerable to the consequences of ignited hazards that come in form of a collision of falling of vehicles, to the extent that the poor people who have placed little or no premium on their life go there to school for and get engulfed in the circumstance of trying to eke out a living in a desperately bad economy and a desperately bad atmosphere of dignity of living.
Now, Mr. Gbenro, you have knocked really hard the drivers. You have knocked the individuals that have not placed a premium on their lives, who go to scoop fuel on their head. But I think your sledgehammer has not hit one faction of this entire picture yet. Talking about the tax force people that stand on or block Nigerian highways to demand for money from some of these tanker or truck drivers plying our highways. Now, in most cases, there are usually altercations that occur between the drivers and this set of individuals. And I think per truck, thereabouts, or per trip, each truck has to pay somewhat between 500 to 600,000 naira to ply from maybe the southern part of the country to the northern part of the country, or from the north to the south. And in most cases, this altercation is what causes casualties on our highways, or even accidents where the drivers are trying to evade the tax force people. How do we also address this issue to ensure that this culture of extortion from tanker and truck drivers is curtailed and nipped to the bud?
Well, that is the extension of corruption we are talking of. In fact, I will revert to what late Makamambida, Alhaji Shehu Musa, he said in Nigeria, officials are not only corrupt, that corruption is official. So it's a defining factor. It's anywhere you go to, whether it's a military roadblock, whether it's that of police and everything, they allow these people, the driver, to go under stress. And you should equally understand that when they delay them unnecessary, when they are impeded in moving their vehicle, they equally get tired as human beings, no matter how skillful they are. And they can slip off and cause accidents. So we don't know the spiral, we don't actually capture the spiral effect of such extortion. It's not only about money, it's contributing to their debilitating state of mind and body, to the extent that they get degenerated, they get exhausted, and they get sleepy, even on the wheel, and cause utmost damage to lives and property when accident happen. So most of the accident could even be as a result of this putting them under grave undertaking, stressing them, making them to be almost useless on the wheel.
No.
And to be frustrated on the wheel.
A lot of people, especially analysts, security analysts, and economic analysts as well, have lauded the federal government for this decision to set up toll gates or to reintroduce toll gates on Nigerian highways. We saw the Kefi Abuja Expressway toll gate that has already commenced operations. Is this a better alternative? Is this a more viable alternative to this debacle of task force officials blocking Nigerian highways and extorting drivers?
Well, I think they are just, it's not going to, and I want to tell you that the thought guiding that policy is not for safety. It's not thought of safety. It's thought of raking revenue. And that is the problem with every action we have in Nigeria. Everything is about revenue. We don't consider the other aspects. Why don't they create a toll gate if they are interested in safety? A toll gate that is well equipped with scanners that can identify what is wrong with truck that is passing through that place. And if your own does not meet the standard expected, then your truck will be delayed, because after examining the state of your truck. Why don't they establish that if they are concerned about safety, rather than where to collect revenue? So the spirit behind the policy is not the spirit of safety, it's the spirit of revenue generation.
Now, in terms of driver culture and road use, do you suggest that most of these companies that engage in haulage make it a standard policy of engendering driver training programs quarterly, and in keeping with any agency that would check the attitude of these road users during the course of their job?
Yes, when you have a vehicle that is conveying such a product from Lagos to this thing, the driver, one driver, at least their driver should do 1 week and rest for 1 week. And that can only come through training of those in that haulage business, and not the driver, because the driver has no choice. And they must be compelled to submit the names of their drivers for training, so that, and the cost of training should not be so high. So they can be compared. How many drivers, for example, Dangote truck, how many drivers do you have? For a year, we are going to train maybe 400 of your drivers, submit their name for 2025, and those can be tracked. And those will be the one that will majorly work. And for other companies too, you do like that. And not only training, you set standard, operational standard, at least for the conditions of the vehicles, and you give to those in their management to implement or comply with.
roadworthy. And then I used to say that one of the works that road safety can do for Nigeria is that whenever there is an accident, let them put a signpost there along that line. This road is bad, a portion of this road is bad, and 101 lives have been lost there. Let it be there. In the last 3 months, every quarter, such should be changed. If they to track whether they may not do it on all Nigerian road, but for the purpose of symbolism, let them continue to do that. And that will give them data to approach the government that Minato Bida Road, about 400 people have been killed by accident there, and through our research, we have found out it's because of the bad road. This road needs to be urgently repaired. Not that we will be doing things that are not empirical deductive, guesswork, and action based on pure emotion. So let us be factual in our governance. Governance is a very serious business. For example, I expect government to have called road safety. Why are these things falling? We can't continue like this. If any vehicle is not going to comply with instruction, that vehicle will not work. And why are people carrying container without being guided, without any Disney on the issue of steeply bad road? And yet, road safety is not doing anything about it. So all these marching orders should be given to appropriate agencies that will deal with all these issues. Until then, we can't have. It's not a joke for society to have a safe society. A safe and secure society is planned for, is worked for, is not about desiring it. It's about putting maximum work into it and ensuring that you have the objective of safe and secure society.
Mr. Gbenro, very well said there. Safe and secure society is what we hope for in terms of Nigeria. But across the world, other nations are now exploring the use of technology in speed cams and traffic cams to help where manpower might not be able to cater for. Do you think that Nigeria is indeed ripe for such technology in helping provide safer roads and transportation when it comes to heavy-duty trucks?
If you take corruption out of our lives, we are ripe for any form of development you see in Europe. Before they had television in Sweden, Nigeria had at Ibadan. So we should not lose we should not lose our history where we have made progress before. People were rushing into Nigeria from Europe, from everywhere, to UCH to obtain to access medical facility. Not only that, when some of us are in school, I'm talking of public university in Nigeria, you have a portion of hostel created for foreign students. I'm not talking of private university in Nigeria. So I'm a witness to such history. So Nigeria had worked before. This destruction came moment after the military, and at the same time, you can see the humongous corruption today. Almost 80% of state budget stolen by governor. 80%. Not 10%, not 1%. So the corruption is extremely high, and no nation can develop with what is going on in Nigeria. The summary is that Nigerians are not, nobody sees himself as Nigerian today. Because you can't see yourself as Nigeria or as a patriot and be looting your country like this. They don't care about anything. If you like, call them governor, call them president, call them ministers. Some megats are more patriotic than this set of people I'm talking about. You see what is happening now? State government, state governor. Is this the first time we're having Ramadan? Closing school for 30 days when their own children are in foreign schools.
Well, Mr. Gbenro, let's not deviate from the matter at hand. Let's still.
So I'm not debating. I'm just giving you the gravity of what is going on in Nigeria. How people are not loyal to a particular cause and become corrupt and cripple the society and make it not make it functional.
Still talking about this corruption and sharp practices in the system. We remember that FRSC had at some point introduced speed trackers or speed limit trackers for vehicles, commercial vehicles across the country. Now, one of the bane of this initiative was the fact that these drivers at some point found a way to bypass or boycott these speed trackers. The devices are installed, but they are not functioning as they should. In terms of accountability, should we also ensure that these truckers or tanker drivers or motorists in general are also held accountable and not just knocking the FRSC for not coming up with initiatives? Because this is clearly an initiative that has been introduced but sabotaged by the same individuals that the initiative was introduced for their benefits.
Well, I don't know whether you call it sabotage or not. Okay. It can be sabotage. Okay. I have no problem that can be done. But it's already breaking the speed. So, some laws are not obeyable. Because you don't have a government to accommodate such law or such policy. Policy must be adaptable and adaptable to the environment of its practice. You can't have policy for you want to track you want to know you want to limit the speed of drivers when there's not even room for them to speed in a large portion of your road. Such policy is not in agreement with that environment. That is one. And secondly, when you want to do things, you do graciously. All the standard of equipment must be known, and you must know, identify area of shortcoming so that you don't get shortchanged by drivers who are ready. Make the equipment you are selling to them almost foolproof to the extent that if they tamper with it, you will know. When you don't get good technology for them and you don't adequately and consistently monitor the speed, then how will it work? The purpose is for them to throw down ideas, whether it will work in a particular environment or not. It's not their concern. As long as contracts have been awarded and money has been made.
Mr. Gbenro, you are still throwing this blame and fault back to the FRSC. This is a clear black and white situation. It's not entirely the fault of the FRSC administration or leadership that they introduced this initiative and the drivers are flouting it.
What happened to those that they have arrested that flouted it? You see, consequences must follow law or policy you are implementing. So where there is no consequences, you can't hold people responsible for the failure of such policy. Before you put in place one policy, you must identify what are you going to do. Most of law and policy on our road are put in place for their agents to just negotiate bribe. They will tell you have violated this. If I ask you to go to court, I take you to court now, you will be fined 50,000. Go and bring 10,000. How will such law work? If we don't kill corruption here, that like with mouthly say, corruption will kill Nigeria. That is just a fact. It's not restricted to road safety alone. It's across board. It's not that sector alone. All sectors in Nigeria. All sectors in Nigeria. So, how will such law work? How do we move ahead in such society? And it must be led from the top. No nation rise above its leadership. If they are corrupt at the top, you see them Whether at the presidency, you see them at the National Assembly, you see them every angle you turn to in Nigeria. Every issue we discuss on daily basis is issue of corruption. People leave office as vice chancellor. The next day they are taken to court for corrupt practices. When we were growing up, when you are a teacher, we just look at you as a saint. Or if you are a pastor, is it the same thing now in Nigeria?
Oh, but Mr. Gbenro, when we started this conversation with you earlier, one of the key points I had raised was the protest in Jos, the Plateau State capital, regarding the incessant killing of drivers on Nigerian highways, especially in the southeastern part of the country. I noticed you had sort of brushed over it a little bit, and then we delved into conversations surrounding safety regulations and all of that. Do you care to also share your thoughts on this with regards to safety of drivers, not based on technical faults now or technical irregularities, but rather individuals who have decided to make themselves the bane of trucking and truckers in Nigeria?
Well, you see that there's a generalized insecurity and violence in Nigeria.
Yeah.
So most people are victims, including drivers. Even in the town, you have report of both drivers, Uber drivers, who were ordered, and they were eventually killed by those who ordered them. And you have such issue. It's rampant in Jos and everything because you have criminals who are violent there, and they kill this driver to get their fuel, to get their, not necessarily to use their truck, to loot their this thing and sell it so that they can renew the circle of violence that they are perpetrating. So these are perpetrators of violence, and of course in some cases extremists who are doing that. So it's not affecting the drivers alone. They do that to cattle rearers, the rustlers. They do that for economic reasons in order to end up prosecuting the war against the Nigerian state and the Nigerian people. So no, that's why I'm saying that security of people and their welfare have failed in Nigeria. A lot of people are still in the forest, kidnappers by forests at the mercy of kidnappers as we are talking today. We are talking because we are relatively safe and we feel that we are safe. And tomorrow or the next day is not the next hour is not guaranteed. The atmosphere is not conducive for safety and security. That is the general thing that we are discussing now. So if you are not a victim today and nothing is done to address it now, the person can be victim tomorrow.
Now, Mr. Gbenro, I like the situation where you referred us to history in terms of UCH in Ibadan in its glory days, and the fact that even in Nigeria, televisions were evoked before some parts of Sweden enjoyed such technology. Now, in wrapping up this conversation, I'd like for you to score the road transport network in this case in terms of its highs and its lows, and your final conclusions on how much of a road ahead we have.
Well, maybe I will just use this to summarize it. I came back to Nigeria a few days ago, but I wanted to see my mom at Akure in Ondo State. And I wanted to come to Abuja by a road. After that, I just look at it. If I go to this, I see her at the village now, and I will be tempted. There is no way I have to come by road. I just look at it. I weigh the option, and the option is that I did my cost-benefit analysis. Is it not better for me if I go by a year of maybe less than 200,000, and I go by road, you get kidnapped, you are looking for 10 million and above? So I chose the one that is plausible for me. Most Nigerians do not have that option. And the fact that you have that option today does not guarantee your safety or security. So life is extremely unsafe in Nigeria of today. We are in a state that have been described by us as a state, where life is brutish, nasty, because life is no longer secure by the state called Nigeria. So we have to look at that, and that is the plight everyone of. We are living in fear. Even in Abuja here, there is a reprieve now. We have witnessed a lot of kidnapping, one chance or whatever, and every other thing. The story is much more frightening in the interior, in the villages, where people have been kidnapped or killed without any report. They are not reported, or we call it underreporting of victims and those that are victimized by this ongoing extreme violence in the country. So we must frequently refer to that and know that we are in a state of anomaly. And to worsen the case, you don't have option. When such thing happen, you are alone with your family in it, looking for ransom, looking for the roads not safe. The roads are not good. The network you are talking about, network of road, is appalling. When you get frustrated on the road because of you are thinking of the delay, the bad road, and the most thing today you think of, are you going to get to your destination? When we were growing up and when we were traveling, the only thing we are afraid of is that, okay, we at least it's reflected in our prayer. God, let us arrive safely without accident. But accident is the least thing that you even think of now in this day of kidnapping. So that is the story of Nigeria. That is the story of our negative change that we are living with in today's Nigeria.
All right,
And it shouldn't be so. We have lived better than this before. At least if we are not moving forward, we should get reverse back to where we were saved. We consider ourselves safe. We consider ourselves secure. We consider ourselves as decent people living life of dignity.
All right, Mr. Gbenro, we might have to stop you there, but it's been wonderful having this conversation. Thank you so much for finding the time to share these deep, full comments with us on the program this morning.
It's a pleasure being with you. Thank you very much.
Well,